Welcome, friends, to episode 245 of Color Magic, a Magic Gaming podcast where we talk about all types of issues that affect gamers at and away from their gaming tables and computers. I am your host, Power Dragon, and for 245 episodes, still got my man hanging out down south. Brian Sonic, how's it going, dude?
Going well. The Post Malone and Friends WWE stuff has dropped, so I've been showing people the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, the Honky Tonk Man.
Dude, I feel like, well, we're going to talk about another DLC later, but I feel like so many games have been dropping quality DLC lately, and
Yep.
people have been busy. It's like they knew summer was coming and people needed something to do.
And that's traditionally is one of the big times where, hey, kids are out of school, people are, going on, even if you're not going on a full-fledged leave the house vacation, hey, staycations, download some new DLC.
Hey, well, good to be a nerd, man, because we got options right now. That is for
Right.
sure. Also, before we get into everything, I'm just going to give you a fair warning. This is going to be a pretty serious episode. There's a lot of tough topics to talk about, and I'm probably going to go on a little bit of a rant. So if you don't have the mental space for that right now, this is probably not the episode you want to listen to. If you do, go ahead and pause right now, grab yourself a drink, and then come back, because we're going to have a moment. This is going to be one of
Well, as we like to say in the South.
Yeah, this is going to be one of them episodes. And before we get into it, don't forget you can go to patreon.com/colormagic. You support the show, help us out, and get a shout out, just like Jerry D'Antonio. Thank you for being a patron. But all right, first topic, let's get into our lead story here. And if you're anywhere on the internet that cares about gaming, streaming, whatever, you're hard to dodge a story, but Dr. Disrespect, the wheels are falling off for this guy right now. First I came across it, there was a story I saw people talking about. I didn't know he was involved with the new production studio, and they were working on some video game, and he is invested in it. But they made a statement, or their board of directors came out and said, we're cutting ties with him. And my first thought went, if he's one of the founders and they're going, nah, son, you're done, something bad happened. Like, they ain't just gonna tell the money dude that, like, sorry, we can't be connected to you anymore. So I was like, all right, don't know what it is, but nobody was saying what it was. It was kind of hush. There were no comments. But then this morning, he decided he was going to make a statement and post something. And it was okay, he made a defense for himself. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm just going to bring it up and read it. I'm just going to bring it because this is the most non-defense defense I have probably ever read on the internet, to be honest. So let's just go down this thing. So what he posts is, I'd like to make a quick statement. There's a lot of cuss words in here, but basically says, I'm going to cut to the chase, effectively, using some not so proper language, which is weird. I know you're trying to stay in character, bro, but you're making an apology and trying to defend yourself here. You're going about it wrong. But he says he wants to apologize to the community. Okay, good start, right? He wants to apologize to his team, to his game studio. Great. And then he says, well, I left people in dark about his release from Twitch, which
is about 4 years ago.
Yeah, and the dude has a history of things, including following people in the bathroom with cameras, harassing folks, whatever. Like, we've at this point, nobody was surprised that what I'm about to tell you came out. But he said because somebody from Twitch spoke about it, now he can speak about it. And basically, he goes on to say, were there Twitch whisper messages with an individual minor in 2017? Question mark. The answer is yes. Were there real intentions behind those messages? The answer is absolutely not. These were casual, mutual conversations that sometimes leaned too much in the direction of being inappropriate, but nothing more. And I'm like, bro, like, that's it. That's the problem. Like,
and even before then, it's like, it'd be one thing if, hey, you came out, and said, hey, I did stuff that was wrong. But basically, somebody, it's about 3 days ago, somebody that used to work at Twitch came out and basically told all of this, that, hey, he was using Twitch whispers to sex the minor, case closed. And then, of course, obviously, people started doing their follow-up research. They looked for a second source. They found that second source, and at that point, he was basically done. He's been trying to rebrand and rephrase. I think his first apology, or not even apology, was basically saying no wrongdoing was found and I got paid. Like, that's not really, I didn't do it. That's just saying they legally can't prove that I did it.
And he even goes on further and says, well, nothing illegal happened. No pictures were shared and no crimes were committed. And I never met them. And it's like, okay, but you still can't send dirty messages to a minor.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like, that's the hell, man.
That's a crime. That's a literal crime, bro.
And then he talks about how, oh yeah, go ahead.
He said, just because you haven't yet been pulled up in a court of law for it, and depending on what NDAs will allow people to say what, you may never. Doesn't mean you, as we say all the time with the legal process, being found not guilty does not make you innocent.
And I will say, he did say that there was no criminal case. They resolved everything in a settlement. So, be fair to him, read it for as what it is. And he does say, from a moral standpoint, I'll absolutely take responsibility. I should never have entertained these conversations to begin with. That's on me. I'm the one that's an adult. I'm also a husband and father. Should have never let it happen. I was like, okay. And if he would have stopped there, I would have been like, it's still messed up, but at least that's a somewhat reasonable apology. But he doesn't know how to stop. No. And then it just goes on and he kind of starts ranting. Just like, dude, what are we doing? Like at some point,
I was surprised about any of it because for Twitch to really, after just having signed him to an extensive big money contract, to let the guy go, I was afraid it was something sexual because that just, what else do rich straight dudes ever pay any consequences for? It's usually some kind of sex scandal. Even then, it usually, unfortunately, has to involve something that turns out in the long run to be illegal. Because just cheating on your wife doesn't end you anymore. It used to.
Yeah, apparently not.
I'm old enough to remember, back when John Edwards got caught having a consensual affair and it ended what was looked to be a promising political career. Those days are over. just cheating on your wife won't get you canceled.
Dude,
It'll get you in trouble, possibly divorced, but...
You know what Dr. Disrespect's apology was? It was the, I smoked, but I didn't inhale, equivalent of like child solicitation or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? That's basically what that was. Like, well, I did this, but I didn't go this far. Right? Like, no, you just, a lot of people also compared
it to Drake, trying to deny again, kind of like, hey, nothing illegal was found.
Yeah. Especially right now with all the beef going on, he's got nothing but spotlights on him.
I brought that underage girl on stage and danced and talked to her provocatively, but I didn't, I didn't go any further. Like, but what you have admitted to is already problematic.
Yeah. Like, and again, this dude has a history of problems over, hell, a 10, 12-year window. Like, this isn't new.
Yeah, what I was hoping was that Twitch was tired of the nonsense, and that was just, which I guess it was strike 3, but I was hoping it wasn't something immoral or illegal strike 3, and no, it turns out it's all of those.
Dude, it's like I told you, as soon as I saw, like, his studio, and I found out he's one of the people who put money behind it, like, they were like, nah. Like, I mean, like, that's how I knew it was something serious. Like, this isn't just, all right, there's a thing going on or there's a legal case or whatever. It's like, oh no, we can't be associated with this, period.
When especially in the game space. I'm like, yeah, because The Verge is, well written, well reported, one of the beacons of, journalism in the nerd space. So when they were confident running with it, I said, yeah, there's some smoke here, clearly.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're a fan of this person, I mean, I don't know why you would be at this point, but if you are, you might need to check your allegiances.
It's hard to get people to let go of their heroes, and we talked about how just in our space, so many people, not just in our space, so many people talk about, oh, who's the problem? The gay people are the problem. They're messing with kids. The transgenders. Why is it? It's that's almost never who it is. It's usually the straight guy that's married, that has supposedly is a family man. These end up being the guys that you got to watch. And so many of the people who are bashing gay people, or bashing transgender people, are still lining up to defend this man.
I'm just saying
After
that
he has admitted pretty much everything he has been accused of. Oh, but he's a good guy. No, you cannot both be you cannot be sexting a minor and also be a good guy. Those two things are mutually exclusive.
The two-time blockbuster champion's gonna have to find some support somewhere because it's getting rough for him right now. I mean, and he's even posting a bunch of y'all just want me to go away and F y'all and blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, you can't, you're attacking people and cussing at people. I get it. Time to turn the brand off.
You know what I mean? All the creepers to go away. And not just you. Everybody that's trying to send sexually explicit messages to a minor. Yeah, we got zero use for you.
Yeah, and what the worst part is, inevitably, I feel like it'll probably still pop back up somewhere.
At this point, it's hard to even. Usually, this is the thing you don't come back from. Ask Kevin Spacey.
You would think last
week on numerous news shows crying about how he can't afford to pay the bills on his mansion anymore. Wow, this is the world's smallest violin. Spacey. But I say that, celebrities are still defending this man. Some of them, some of the people that are, but he's a great actor. No one is disputing that he's a great actor. He's an Academy Award-winning actor, but
R. Kelly made some bomb-ass music.
Yeah,
but he's still a piece of trash.
Exactly.
I mean, that's all there is to it. You can say whatever. The art is not the artist. The art can be one thing, and the artist can still be garbage.
Yeah.
Just all there is to it.
Sadly, we've seen it happen countless times over the years,
Well, all right, man. I think I got a rant here. And this is one, I think, okay. This is a series of small things that kind of built up. That I kind of got set off with the news story this morning that I read. But I encountered some people that had a problem with us doing the cookout last week. Not understanding really what it was, thinking it was only people of color, but there were several melanin deficient folks that were there. That was not a thing. It was totally fine. I had a good time. Had 60, 70 people show up. Played a bunch of games with folks, got some videos in. It was a good weekend. Or good week, actually, because we did it on Thursday and Friday. Had some people that when we're talking about the podcast, even at the Command Fest, were like, well, do you feel like you're going to alienate some people? Or because you're talking about this? Or it's just have you ever thought about, having two black guys limits your perspectives or whatever? And it's no, we know what the show is about. We know damn well what we're doing.
Right?
But I'm also understanding that people are only okay with it, or at least with black performances or black creators or black characters when, not only, but often when we're celebrating the hurt. Not when we're just wanting to celebrate something positively or lift somebody up or show off something or whatever, right? But you make the color purple, everybody wants to talk about it. You know what I mean? It's sort of what it feels like. And people still don't understand that all the racism that comes in, right? You talk about this video is going to get some negative comments when I put it up on YouTube. Right? That's the thing, right? Hell, I get dumb comments on YouTube, people taking shots at me just for being on there, right? But people still think that doesn't exist. Hell, to get political for a second, I had to explain to somebody that the fact that you think that Trump is going to get more black support just because he's a felony with a mugshot really says what you think about black people. Let's be honest. Right? We only care because we relate to you magically now because you have felonies and a mugshot, which I have neither of, by the way.
Me neither. And when my politician, even if I voted for him, if they commit a felony during their time in office, that's disqualifying for me. To me, they're just, I don't care.
Exactly.
I don't care if you agree with me on every single political point. There's somebody that my group can run that's not a felon. I'd rather vote for them. I've always been that way. Just,
I
I
feel
don't.
you.
To be quite honest, if you're a convicted felon, I don't even care if you're actually innocent. There's somebody else from a political standpoint that my party can run that's not a convict. Because if you somehow get elected, and this is America, it's happened, it may happen again in a few months. There is so much crap you have to wade through, so many challenges you will have to deal with as somebody who's not a convicted
Well,
felon.
maybe not, because we just found out the Supreme Court passed a thing 6-3 that they can take bribes, apparently. That's a thing that's out there now. Like,
Well, and again, that is apparently only if you're a Republican, because
exactly.
let a Democratic
But
politician take those same bribes, and we're going to have a whole other set of problems.
to go back down this rabbit hole, there's still people that still, even after having these conversations for the last 4 or 5 days, want to say like, well, the racism's not that bad. The racism doesn't exist. Or we overcame this, that, and the other. And it's like, no, I can show you these very YouTube comments, right?
Right.
I can show you responses in my DMs.
Look at all the comments on my video about why we should stop saying the word tribal in reference to magic cards. It's a
Oh, I've
cesspool.
told people I have a history of things that have happened to me, even just in the game industry.
Yeah.
But then this morning, I saw a story. Apparently, yesterday, as of this recording, a rich white couple in West Virginia, I believe they were aged 62 and 63, had adopted 5 black kids. And I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
To be slaves on their 700-acre farm. I was like, oh, hold up a second.
Right.
So deep diving, kids were age, I believe, 14, 12, 11, 9, and 6. A damn 6-year-old, man. I don't care what race
and
the
they
kid
selected
is.
ages of people who, if you go and to tell any other adult this, they're going to be they're going to be less likely to believe you, because the story is completely just, it happened, but the story is just mind breaking.
Even beyond that, like these kids were kept in the most terrible. Like honestly, they were treated worse than slaves were probably treated. I mean, they were in actual, like they have pictures. They were in actual like horse stalls with like nothing. And they got fed, I guess they were saying like once a day, like at 6 a.m. before they went and worked the field or whatever. And I'm like, how do you treat a 6-year-old like that? And people want to act like this stuff just doesn't happen. That is
I'm
not
sure
out in
there
the
was
world.
no way they were taking them to the doctor, as you were
Oh, of
supposed to
course
do with
not.
your children every year, generally around their birthday.
Honestly, that's why. And they only got found out because some other people started asking questions about, hey, we don't ever really see these kids, and like they don't really participate in these things, and they're supposedly homeschooling, but like we don't ever see them as part of these other whole homeschool gatherings or whatever. So then they had the authorities and the social workers come out and do a wellness check, and then they discovered everything. But it was just like, dude, like literally, this is the like stereotype all the way, but rich white couple got 5 black kids to be slaves on their farm. Like, and we want to say this crazy stuff doesn't happen? Like, come
This
on,
is an
bro.
extreme example, but you can find so many. Human trafficking is, for all intents and purposes, slavery, and in so many cases, it is people that are minorities and marginalized communities that are being involved in the human trafficking. So yeah, it's still.
Hell, dude, I still have people responding to that post I made 3-4 years ago about having a black teacher. Like that still resonates with people. And that was years ago that people are still responding to it on Twitter, which blows my mind. But it says, this is the reason some of these projects still need to exist, right? We are not in that space yet where this stuff has been overcome. And it's still going to be a while. Hell, it may not even be in our lifetime, honestly.
Right.
But it's just one of those things.
People don't forget about what their political stance is or
Absolutely.
what they feel about racism. Have they seen just how the internet and how social media works? There are new. You can get a newsletter just for example if you would like to know more about how to, for like in your case, Daquan, like how to raise chickens. You could have a whole YouTube channel that covers that. You can have a newsletter that covers that. Just everything on the internet is you can get news focused for no matter how focused the thing you care about is. There's a website, there's multiple newsletters, there you can get your social media feed tailored to it. So the fact that people are still shocked that enough racism occurs that we can have a podcast where we talk about it is mind blowing to me.
Yep.
It's just
Still a thing. Still a thing. And like I said, the fact that I encountered multiple things over the last 4 or 5 days was just really though.
and as we said the whole time, we didn't want to just do a show about what magic cards are good because there are already probably no less than 1,000 podcasts and YouTube efforts that talk about that. There was no need for another one.
Yep.
We wanted to do the show as we looked around and were shocked, by the way, to find out that really nobody was doing this kind of show.
I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to give you your time.
Yeah, there's so much just bizarre stuff going on. But this is actually some happy news in a podcast that desperately needs a little bit of happy news. For 40 some odd years, since the first Legend of Zelda dropped back in the 80s, people have been saying, hey, the game is literally named Legend of Zelda. Could Zelda maybe be playable or, the main character since the game is named after her? And for about 40 years, Nintendo's response was, nope, not doing it. Don't see the need for it. Finally, at the most recent Nintendo Direct, we have found out that the next Legend of Zelda game will actually star Princess Zelda as the main character, and she will be trying to save Link, who has been kidnapped by, I'm assuming, Ganon, because that's usually how this works. But yeah, people are jazzed, excited. There's so many great memes about it, about Princess Zelda getting ready to unleash all this pent up aggression that she has no doubt had for being kidnapped for 40 years now. People are excited about this. It should have happened a long time ago, but Nintendo finally, listened to their customers. Princess Peach, I think, even got her solo game. I want to say that back when the 3DS was still.
Well, she's been at least a playable character in games forever between Mario Party, Mario Kart, blah, blah, whatever, since who knows when.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think Zelda / Sheik has been a playable character in the Smash Bros. Series,
sure.
But before now, never the main character in the game that basically is supposed to be her legend. So, thank you, Nintendo. We're sorry it took 40 years. Hope this is not the last time we do something like this.
The biggest thing it's going to solve is that people will actually recognize Zelda from Link now.
We hope.
All right. All that being said, let's talk about what we learned this week, because I think we have two very interesting things from very, very different angles. So what do you got?
Yeah, so some other I'm gonna say just plain weird Nintendo news. Nintendo stuff this wasn't a thing Nintendo did, but it involves their product. Woman apparently got caught trying to sneak through customs with, I believe they said, 350 Nintendo Switch games in her bosom, for lack of a better term. Almost 400 Nintendo games in her bra. Well, one of the reasons they caught her was because at that point, her boobs were not shaped in any way normally. So they said, "Hey, seriously, you're obviously up to something. We're gonna have to have a chat with you." Boy, I would hate to have to be really any kind of job where you gotta be the one that searches people. But yeah, in this case, Good Lord. Just my heart goes out to the people that had to say, hey, we don't believe this, but we feel like there's Switch cartridges in your bra.
I mean, I'm just trying to think like the average size of a Switch game.
I mean, they're not big, which is why she was able to
Sure,
smuggle so many of them.
but like, what makes you think you're going to get away with literally hundreds of them? You know what I mean? Like, now don't be wrong. I obviously don't have boobs, but I've seen a few. You can't like. I mean, you have a few hundred. I mean, like, where? Even if you have large ones, where are those going to go hidden? I mean, like, come on,
I mean,
man.
she was able to steal the game. So at some point, obviously, it's easier if you're only lifting one or two. But yeah, she somehow got to this checkpoint at customs in China, apparently. So
This is a theory I've had since I've been in business that we catch most criminals because they're greedy.
yeah.
I think the best ones we will never catch because they're not greedy enough. They follow a simple system, whatever. We'll never catch those people.
Let's say maybe only 100 Nintendo cartridges in your boobies. You know, maybe
I wouldn't even. I mean, I wouldn't do it to begin with. But even if I was going to, like 50 seems like a more realistic number to me. That at least wouldn't show in any way, shape, or form weird, or somebody like I don't know when you get scanned or patted down might not look weird. I don't know, like but 300 or whatever, like that's crazy.
Yeah, she, as you said, just total.
Man,
Whatever the number of Switch cartridges you can hide in your bra and get through customs, it's way less than 350.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. And you're trying to take them through customs. That's the other
Yeah,
thing, right? Like now you're talking about getting in real trouble. So it's like, yeah, just it ain't worth it, man. People got to do some real life assessment, honestly, before doing some of that stuff.
In her head, it was a brilliant plan.
I guess so. I'm with you. Maybe she thought it was like, this is foolproof. Ain't nobody gonna notice.
Maybe she's done it before, and maybe at that point it was only 150 or 200 or whatever the number was. Where
honestly, that's one of the biggest things I told people. If you catch people even shoplifting, it's rarely their first time.
Right.
They've usually done it once or twice before, and they got lazy and got comfortable. And that's how you catch them. So this is probably the same situation with this woman.
Just kept getting greedy. Like, okay, I got away with 50.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to do 100. Got away with 100. You're going to do 150. And just kept going.
Not just that. Now that I'm thinking about it logistically, how long does that even take? You know what I mean? To like physically like grab them, put them, you know what I mean? Because even if they're just in stacks and not in boxes or whatever, like you still are taking handfuls at a time. And like, you know, like logistically, this makes no sense to me. How she thought this was going to work. I just can't even. I just can't. I can't even get in that headspace.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, all right.
I wonder if what is... you go ahead, please.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say mine's actually some good news. Like, so for those of you that don't use Moxfield, you probably should. It's a great place to post your deck lists and look up stuff or whatever. They had a really big update, and it basically was a bunch of stuff for your profiles. Now you can, now you can add banner images. You can update your display name. All kinds of stuff with like you can put your decks in there so people could search your decks a little faster or whatever, a bunch of different things. You can have personal color identity. But one of the big things they added, which people thought was really cool, was the option to put your pronouns in there. So now you can have a full like profile, card, image, the whole 9 yards on their site. And that apparently was a big thing they've been working on that they were really happy with and pushing and got a really positive response from the community. So it was like, good on them. Doing something positive. People are super happy about, made the site a little better, more useful, more functional on top of that. So like all around win when a company does something really nice for the community. Because honestly, they could have spent time working on other stuff, but they're like, you know what? The part that people interact with a lot and are probably going to use to share on socials or whatever, let's make that nicer for everybody. So good on them. Like some good news to share in the middle of this episode with lots of negative news. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. I just found that out earlier today, and it was actually super nice. But now, sadly, let's get into more of that bad news. All right, remember last time when we were talking about old NicMercs?
It was just what was it? I think it was literally the last podcast.
Yeah, the last episode we did.
Good God,
He's back at it again. And last week, apparently, he decided to take shots at MrBeast's friend Chris. And for those of you who don't know about Chris, Chris has transitioned over the last probably about 2 years or so, and was honestly saying some things that were pretty disparaging as far as I can tell, with no evidence behind them. Trying to say like, oh, actually the big quote that he pushed that got the most interactions was, "You should be ashamed of yourself leaving behind your wife and child to go play pretend." Basically saying he's going out on these video shoots with Jimmy, MrBeast, and leaving his family behind for all that. Now, one, if you're doing it for work, you got to do what you got to do. But apparently, MrBeast stepped up, so credit to him, and said, and quoting here, it says, "Ava's literally always with her kid and doesn't even go on shoots to spend more time with the kid." So, dude, he's always smiling. The kid talking about the kid. Not sure where this rumor even comes from. And it's like, dude, credit to MrBeast, like stepping up for his transgender friend here, like willing to take the shots. Like, good on him. But NicMercs, man, brother's got to chill out. Like, for real. Like, and of course, with the Dr. Disrespect stuff, he at least came out.
That's one of his boys.
He at least came out and said, like, he doesn't approve of that and can't get down with it, but still was very light in condemning him. So it's just like, man, come on, dude. Like,
when stuff happens and I'm not sure, when I don't have the background, trying to figure out what's going on, one of the things I look at is who's in favor of it and who's opposed to it. And in a case where if NicMercs is opposed to it, I'm probably going to be in favor of it. And by the same token, if MrBeast is in support of it or if supporting someone, I'm going to be in support of that person, because we have at this point heard nothing negative about MrBeast. This guy raises money to give people their actual sight back, gives water to people in Africa. Just an all around awesome dude. And again, he ain't got to do any of that. He could just, he could sit somewhere in his tower full of money and nobody would fault him. But no, he's always an incredibly positive person using his powers for good instead of evil. So yeah.
But even beyond that, like, I have been on the receiving end of activity of people like NicMercs, right? Just somebody you don't like. You see anything you think you could turn into a talking point becomes a thing. Hell, I've had people literally send police to my place saying, "Oh, he's probably dealing drugs out the back or whatever," or, inappropriate things with kids. This, that, like doing that. I have had cops show up to my business for one of these reports and then just look around and go, "The hell?" Like, and I was like, "Y'all need something?" It's like, "Well, we heard X and X was happening." I'm like, "Dude, we're just doing business." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, obviously that's what it looks like." And it's just like, I don't even know why y'all came out here. So this feels like more of that activity to me. Of this is somebody who doesn't agree with transgender people being a thing, wants to make up something and take a shot at a high profile one. And then now that everybody else is up against them, trying to backtrack or whatever. It's like, dude, there's no point to even start this. Seriously, you could have just kept it to yourself especially with no proof. That's the thing that gets me. You went after somebody who was high profile with no proof, and in your own space has even way bigger friends.
Because it used to be, as entertainers, be it actor, comedian, what have you, we realize we serve at the pleasure of the public. Many of us try just our best to not offend anyone. But in recent years, when we've kind of developed where you have not just only, we used to say you're entitled to your own opinion, but not your own facts. Now we have whatever political persuasion you have your own news channel. So people feel that they are entitled to their own facts. NicMercs has alienated enough people to where at this point, being right wing, reactionary, and hell, just kind of crazy, he decided to make that part of his brand because that is the candy that his followers eat. So it just he's made his choice. He has made his bed. This is him, and there's, to be fair, a lot of money in the mattresses of that bed, and he knows that.
Yeah, which is sad. But, really, if anything, round of applause to MrBeast,
Right.
Coming to the aid of his friend. And it's good that happened because whether we like it or not, there are a lot of kids and teenagers and young adults that look up to MrBeast.
Yeah.
So seeing that activity, he was willing to defend his friend Chris, will go a very long way.
Which also means there's a lot of teenagers and kids that look up to Chris because they
Absolutely. That's
are
a good
on
point.
their transgender journey, or they have somebody in their family that is on that journey. And as we talk about, it is literal life or death. If nobody supports you, if you don't get the gender affirming medical care that is, by the way, supported by medicine and science, if you don't get that care when you need it, the rates of suicide, the rates of self-harm, or the rates of just general, depression and things that can happen to you are mind-numbing. So yeah, just shout out to MrBeast, because again, Chris didn't have to really, tell anybody. They could have found a lower profile job somewhere and
Exactly.
just
Could have just went away.
Could have went on their transition and told literally only family and friends. But Chris chose to do this on the most high profile YouTube channel in the world. And I'm sure because Chris knows that kids that are going through that same journey, and not just adults too, because there
I
are
was going to
people.
say, it doesn't have to be kids.
Yeah, there are people that come out as transgender at all different stages of their life, and they need to know that other people are here for them and support them, because there's going to be a whole bunch of people like NicMercs over there that are going to come for them for just no good reason.
Yep, for anything. So this next one is something that I found kind of interesting because I've mentioned this before, but Kai Sennett kind of went on a small rant, about people being mad that the new DLC content for Elden Ring was too difficult. And basically, obviously a lot of people are saying, get good, blah, blah, whatever. It's a skill issue. But I think the perspective is still lost. And I just want to bring it up again that for me, it's not even a skill issue, because I feel like I could play through it enough and figure it out and probably get good at it and whatever. I just don't want to spend the time to do it to play a game and enjoy a story. Right? So why not give me different difficulty levels and modes in it? Like, you can still play it on super crazy psychopath mode if you want to. And if you enjoy that, great. And you can brag about it and you can show your time and do all that other stuff. But for dudes like me, they will never get my money just because I know the amount of time and effort and whatever I'd have to put in right now. It's just like not going to happen. So
and
there's
I think that, and the counter argument is, I think it's literally their brand. The whole point their game exists is to kick your butt.
And you know what? And I'm okay with that too. Like, if that's what you want and that's your branding, cool. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You just don't get access to another several millions of dollars because people like me are out here going like, I don't have the time for that. Like, knowing that for me to beat a boss, if I were to pick up that game today, would probably be, hell, some of these cases, watching other people who play the game do it still takes them like 45 minutes to an hour for one boss. I'm like, hell, that might be a 2-hour, 3-hour job for me never playing the game before. So I'm like, yeah, I got other things to do, unfortunately. So it's just not going to be a thing for me.
But yeah, let me, I guess, play Demons or Elden Ring's Advocate or whatever. Like, you play Teamfight Tactics, right?
Yeah, but I can literally play it in like, however long a game takes me, like 30 minutes, and then just go to bed.
But you're going to get to a point where the game it becomes Elden Ring for you. It kicks you in the face, and you will never get any farther unless you make it your full-time job to learn how to play Teamfight Tactics.
But the difference is, I'm literally experiencing everything there is to experience in the game just the same. I'm just not ranking up.
Except for whatever the highest rank is. You're not
no. I'm just not ranking up. Whereas in Elden Ring, there's a whole other story, all new characters, all whatever, that I will never see if I don't put in that amount of time. Like I still
And I'd
see
argue there's
every
a whole bunch of stuff on TV. The highest level gameplay, the best tricks to learn, you'll never see unless you watch a
sure,
YouTube video because you'll never get that high.
but the game I'm playing, I get to experience everything in there. I can touch every character. I can cast whatever spells, all in a 30-minute window if I want to. Right? That's why I've chosen to play it because I can do all those things whether I want to play for 30 minutes or I want to play for 3 hours and then go on about my day. Now whether I rank up or not, whole different story.
Yeah.
But I'm still getting the full game experience and I can walk away. Right? I can still get all the rewards, I can still do all that stuff. I can't do that with a game like Elden Ring. Just because like hell, there's sometimes I really just wish I could just hit a button and just see the whole story for Elden Ring. And I'll probably just have to go watch somebody's YouTube video at some point when they put that compilation together. But it seems cool. I'm not gonna lie. I don't fault anybody who likes the game because it's obviously popular and visually looks ridiculous. So, like, cool. But it was amazing for me to see the number of people that were mad that people didn't want to dedicate the time to be really good at it. And I'm like, wow, that's weird. Like, it's okay. Just, it's not going to be for everybody, obviously, because that's not what they want. And I'm okay with that. You
And I
know,
think we go through a thing where I've experienced this, where people think because we play video games, especially for people that have never consumed our content. Anybody that's watched the podcast would know that, okay, yeah, or listen to it, would know that, yes, while I am good at a couple of games, that's not the whole point, or usually not even really the point. I don't give tips on here. But people assume if you play video games or card games for a living, you are never supposed to lose ever. You're supposed to
oh,
be the literal best. And why would I watch you if you're, I had a cousin one time beat me at Madden, be like, well, if Madden was my job, I would never lose. And then point out, but you also had 3 people telling you what plays I was running until they start telling you, hey, Brad is running the same play over and over. You hadn't figured that out.
mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a tough thing, that we can't really appreciate that people just interact with things differently. Right? Like that's okay. Again, not everything's going to be for everybody.
Yeah.
Even in the case of Elden Ring, it's like you're saying, it's built for a certain audience. They want their brain to be these crazy difficult. Hell, everybody said the new DLC is crazy difficult,
Yeah.
even compared to the game.
Yeah, because the game is already well known for just it's gonna kick you in the face and make fun of you, for while it's kicking you in the face. It's a bully. It's designed to be.
Hell, I've watched people struggle at that game, even with hacks put into it.
Right.
It's just like, so I know the game's hard. But like I told other people, I said, they've been mad at me for having that opinion. I said, no, I just know what my time's worth right now.
Yeah.
Like, and I can't justify it to play something like Elden Ring. I'll just play other things. I mean, as we've talked about many times, whether you're playing card games, board games, video games, whatever right now, there is no shortage and other things to experience.
Yeah.
So you can
For
find
some
something.
people, the concept of playing a game to relax is just an alien thing.
Oh, that's true. That's fair.
They think you're supposed to go hardcore. And again, if that's what you enjoy, then yes, by all means, there are plenty of. We're at the point, as you said, whatever game you want to play, it exists. If you want to play a game, about medieval European history, but all the characters are rabbits, that game probably exists for you. It's just,
there's probably something. If it ain't rabbits, some anamorphic thing, it's probably out there. But yeah,
it's a great time. As I say all the time, I love nerds because they're just things. For example, I was. It's almost a genre of game where they'll take stuff that actually happened in history, but instead of tanks or horseless carriages or whatever they had then, they'll have mechs. So like World War II, but there's mechs, or the Civil War, but they have mechs. It's become a genre essentially.
Yeah,
alternate history, but with giant robots.
But
I love nerds.
If you love mech games, there's a whole category history for you, right?
You wouldn't think there's enough people that fall into both those categories for you to, but nerds are awesome, All
right, so I got one more topic to hit on before we get to the dinner table. But remember how we talked about how crazy Lord of the Rings sold?
Mm-hmm.
I have been talking to different distributors and retailers, and several of them said that from pre-release through last weekend, they have had sales equal to or even slightly exceeding in many cases Lord of the Rings for Modern Horizons 3. That's crazy. That is nuts. Like, also considering the fact that the average product for Modern Horizons 3 is like double the cost of Lord of the Rings stuff, and people are still buying it. And apparently it's all types of people, because even over the weekend when we to the Command Fest, there was casual players that bought like the new Commander decks and they were playing them on the tables that day or whatever. So I don't know, man. Like, we sit here and we talk about people saying that, well, actually, that's one thing I will say. We're finally getting people starting to accept the idea that Magic's not dying. Right? I think that's been a thing that people have been trying to say for the last 5-6 years, especially since the pandemic. And now people are kind of going, all right, everything is selling. Everything is having success. Like, these Command Fests are full. The Magic Fests are selling out. Right? At some point, we have to admit that it's not dead. It's not
And I
even
will say
close.
a lot of people are seeing this from their own perception. Like, hey, if your local scene is not popping anymore, okay, yeah, maybe Magic is dead for you. Or if you only played Magic, because the Pro Tour was a big driver of things. Okay, then yeah, it's dead to you because those days that cow's out of the barn. She ain't ever coming back. But no, to say the whole thing is dying, no, that's not the reality.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think there's too many people who have like some small Facebook groups, or they're following certain people on Twitter or whatever, and it's just like, dude, those are not real places. Like, that's a small myopic view of the entire millions and millions and millions of people that are playing this and
And
buying this.
again, most people, I won't say most, but a lot of people's view of their favorite thing is very myopic. They don't necessarily
Sure,
like
sure.
Magic. Maybe they liked a certain format, and that format's not hot. Like, let's say you don't like Commander. You may well be miserable right now because Commander is the most popular format in the game.
That's fair. That's fair.
So
I
again,
can't argue with you.
if you're trying to return to I don't know 2007 or whenever, yeah, those
Now,
days are gone.
I will say this, and I wish I could remember the two creators' names, but there are two fairly large, not traditionally gaming creators. They kind of do just regular vlog stuff and goofy stuff on YouTube. But I've been seeing some of those creators starting to do box breaks and stuff
Yeah,
on their YouTube channel with Magic product. And now they're going and buying old Magic stuff and opening it or whatever. So now those audiences are starting to pick up Magic. They're like, oh, I didn't know Magic was cool, or I didn't know
yeah.
there was valuable cards, or I didn't know, like. So that's opening whole new audiences just because, so like, there's still new players coming. Hell, honestly, pretty much every event I'm going to now, I'm seeing tons of new faces or people saying, hell, I can tell you for sure this last Command Fest, I had at least 6 different people tell me like, oh yeah, this is my first, not even Command Fest, my first Magic event I've been to.
Okay.
Like, so there's still new faces, man. They're going to replace
I
some of
think
us.
hasn't
We're
it
going to age
always
out, but
been?
you know what?
Yeah,
It's fine.
every game that lasts for more than 9 or 10 years, admittedly, is a small section of games. That happens. People leave for whatever reason, and if the game is good, people will. There will always be new people to replace those folks. It's kind of as the saying goes: "Magic is dead. Long live Magic."
Well, here's the thing too. I think we kind of lose perspective of this, right? Because we've been part of some of the longest running products. But D&D turns 50 this summer,
Good
right?
God,
Magic's
that's
31, 32
yeah.
years old now. Pokemon, I believe, is coming up on 30
Yeah, every
in
day there's
in
a
a
new. Like
year or two, right?
Mario, I think is 40 some
Yeah,
odd.
Yu-Gi-Oh, I think, is 25-ish now, if I'm not mistaken. So like, it's got a lot of legs under it. But we kind of forget that we are currently in the phase of the long running games, right? Like,
All the things your parents told you wouldn't still be popular in 6 months have been around for 50 years.
oh yeah, why are you wasting time with that Magic game or whatever, and here we are 25 years later, right? It's a crazy thing to think about. So I don't think we even really know what the downfall of one of these products would even really look like. You know what I mean? Because we can see it with smaller games. It only lasts
Yeah.
3 to 5 years, and like,
Yeah.
sales fall off, or like they lose a license, or tournaments don't make, and we kind of see the writing on the wall, right? But these long running brands have lots of ways to keep people coming in, and they keep pushing. And Magic's brought in other brands to build their stuff up, and like Pokemon does stuff with Pokemon Go and with their cartridges on I was gonna say Game Boy, but hell, that was a while ago. But
and in women's bras, apparently.
yeah, exactly.
So, like,
But on Switch and whatever, right? And that's becoming a thing. And like Yu-Gi-Oh has the cartoon and whatever, right? So they can keep revamping and keep growing. So we don't really know what the downfall. Hell, because at this point, it's not even just the games; it's the infrastructure around the games. There's a whole bunch of retailers selling this stuff. There's tournaments. There's websites. There's vendors at a bunch of
yeah.
things, right? There's conventions based around each of these products. Even if it was dying, we probably wouldn't see the end for 8, 9, 10 years. And that's only if somebody else didn't come in and buy the license because they could make money on it.
Yeah, and we're to the point where if Hasbro wanted to sell it, yeah, they'd be lined up around the block.
Like some video game company that wants to get into the tabletop space and expand their arm would drop, who knows, probably $1 billion on it to buy it and then go nuts.
Cough.
Well, Tencent probably would. But like just saying, yeah, Magic's, again, we can be mad at it. We can be mad at the decisions. We can be mad at the prices.
Yeah, you can absolutely hate the direction. There are things about its direction that I think we both disagree with, but to say the whole thing,
no,
it's going not somewhere. No.
Hell, even for these conventions, we're seeing the highest ticket price stuff selling out in hours, not even days.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, bruh, we're in a crazy time.
Once your brand reaches a certain point, there will just no matter how many players you lose, there will always be new players to replace them.
But speaking of events, that's going to be our thing for the dinner table here. So after all this negativity we had to cover this week, because there was a lot of it, I wanted to end on something kind of positive. So I wanted to ask you, Brian, if you could have anywhere possible, because we're doing events all over the world and special venues and whatever, if anywhere in the world you could hold an event, where would you want it to be?
I guess my town, because I think, like you said, every place else already has one. I can't think of any major city at this point that doesn't hold, major, especially Magic event. Who doesn't have one at this point? Especially in kind of now, obviously overseas, there are a lot of people that aren't getting as many, but in the continental United States, where I happen to live, what major city doesn't get some kind of Magic event? And again, if anybody knows, please, I'm sure I'll hear about it in the comments.
Yeah, most of the major cities have something. Maybe not yearly, but they have enough every few years to get something. I can't speak to a lot out of the country because I've only had some modest amount of travel. Yeah. But man, I will tell you what, when I went to St. Thomas, or the U.S. Virgin Islands, really, because I bounced between the 3 islands. That was some of the nicest hospitality, like good food, whatever. And I was like, man, if I didn't think having a large event there would overwhelm the islands, that's definitely where I would tell people to go and put an event. Like, they have a small airport that maybe only holds like 3 or 4 planes at a time. It ain't real big. So like, that's probably the first issue. But man, and I'm not even a heavy drinker, but dude, let me tell you, like when we got off, not even joking, we got off the plane and you're going through their little terminal or whatever, you're not even 100 feet off the plane. And there's a dude like, welcome to the island. And he's got like a whole spread of Captain Morgan of all these different flavors trying to and it's free, just trying to get you liquored up coming to the island.
Well, that's good for tourism, because the drunker you get, the more money you're going to spend.
In our hotel lobby, they had this whole big container, just rum punch. They just kept full, and it was just free. If you just want to come get some, right?
Tourism.
We're out shopping. They're offering you drinks. Hell, we went from one island to the next. And you got to take a little ferry that's like, 20 minutes or whatever. You get off the ferry, and it's like, welcome to the island. And there's a dude with more alcohol. And I'm like, dog, we just got some on the other side. Like, what are you doing to us? So, yeah, if you wanted to party, have a good time. The food was amazing. That's where, if it could be a small to mid-size event, like 5 to 10,000, that's probably what I would say. You could put it there, because they get stops from like cruise ships and stuff, and they can handle that. Yeah. So like, I could probably do it now. I don't think we could put like a Gen Con, 60, 70, 80,000 people plus workers around. That'd be too much, I think. But yeah, that'd be my pick.
And I would, if I were completely honest, my town does not even currently have a comic or game shop. So yeah, in reality, probably don't.
Really? You don't even have one in your suburb, like for real?
No, not next burb over has a comic book store, but yeah, this city does not have, and it's been tried. There was, back, but it's been many years ago. So I guess they
Wow. Like,
just.
do y'all have any type of nerd shop? Like card
I mean,
game,
obviously
anime?
we have Barnes and Noble, and we got Hot Topic.
Yeah,
Bars
that
and
doesn't really count.
But in terms of actual, hey, this is a locally owned comic shop to go to. And as I said, it's been tried. It wasn't. And,
Wow.
once a couple of people have tried it and it's failed, it's a lot harder to convince the next person to do it. So I
That's
don't know
pretty
what they're
crazy.
doing one town over, but apparently it's working.
Wow, I did not know that. That's pretty wild. Well, there you go. Yeah, even in the comments, I like to see if like where you, even if it is your hometown, but like where would you like to legitly see an event that people would have a good time? Because I think that's a good question. But that's going to do it for us, brothers. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on social media?
All right, I am Brian Sonic on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Stop by there and watch me doing the shake, rattle, and roll with the honky tonk man.
And honestly, I want to say we are not that negative. This was just one of those times there's a lot of negative news to cover. So hope we didn't bring your day down too much. But if you want to follow me everywhere on social media or on YouTube, you can find me at Power Dragon, POWRDRAGN. And I got content for you every day. So come say hey. But as always, wherever you're watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please take care of yourselves and your family. Remember to be awesome. And most importantly, be awesome to each other.